There's a moment when your life quietly splits into two pieces, before the truth and after it. Mine happened 3 nights into my honeymoon, barefoot, standing in a dark hotel hallway outside a locked suite that was supposed to be empty, listening to sounds that no wife should ever hear. That was the moment I realized the man I had just married was never really mine, and the woman inside that room with him shared my blood. Stay with me, because what happened next didn't just end my marriage, it destroyed my entire family. And the revenge that followed? No one saw it coming. My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I had a career I had spent 10 years building as an interior designer, a house with a wide porch and white columns, and a man named Ryan Carter, who I believed was my forever. Ryan was the kind of man who remembered the small things. He left sticky notes on the coffee machine before work. "Don't forget to eat. Good luck with your meeting. You looked beautiful this morning." Stupid little messages that made ordinary mornings feel special. After 4 years together, I thought I knew everything about him. I thought I understood his silences, his smiles, his moods. I thought I knew his heart. I was wrong. Ryan proposed during a weekend trip to the Smoky Mountains. It wasn't dramatic, no photographers, no crowd, just a quiet sunset on a hiking trail, and Ryan dropping to a knee in the dirt with nervous hands. I said yes before he even finished asking. At the time, it felt like the easiest decision of my life. Our wedding was small, just 40 people, a white countryside venue outside Nashville with wildflowers and soft string lights hanging over the dance floor. Everything felt warm and intimate. My parents were crying. Ryan looked emotional when I walked down the aisle, and standing beside me the entire day was my cousin Vanessa. Vanessa and I grew up together. Our mothers were sisters, which meant every holiday, every birthday, every summer vacation of my childhood included her. She wasn't just family, she was the closest thing I had to a sister. So when it came time to choose my maid of honor, there was never a question. Of course it was Vanessa. She helped me pick my dress, she calmed my panic attacks during wedding planning, she even organized my bridal shower. Everyone said how lucky I was to have someone so supportive. Looking back now, I realized something terrifying. The person helping me plan my wedding was already planning to destroy it. The ceremony was perfect. Ryan cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. Real tears. My dad leaned close and whispered, "He's a good man, Claire." I believed him with my whole heart. The reception lasted until almost midnight. There was music, laughter, champagne glasses clinking together under soft lights. At one point, I looked around the room and felt this overwhelming sense of peace. My parents were dancing. Ryan was laughing with friends. Vanessa was hugging guests and smiling like she always did. I remember thinking, this is happiness. I had no idea that everything around me was already starting to crack. 3 days later, Ryan and I arrived in Hawaii for our honeymoon, a luxury beachfront resort. Blue water, palm trees swaying in warm wind, the kind of place people dream about for years. Vanessa had actually helped us book it as a wedding gift. She said she had used airline points from her job to upgrade our suite. At the time, I thought it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever done for me. Now, I know it was something else entirely. The first 2 days were perfect. Beach walks, dinner under candlelight, lazy mornings watching the ocean from our balcony. Ryan was affectionate again, attentive, almost too perfect. If I had been paying attention, I might have noticed the strange moments, the times he checked his phone and quickly turned the screen away, the nights he stepped outside to take work calls. But love has a way of blinding you, especially when you want to believe the fairy tale. On the third night, everything changed.
We had dinner at the hotel restaurant and came back to the suite around midnight. Ryan seemed tired, quiet, distracted. He kissed my forehead and said he needed a quick walk to clear his head before bed. I didn't question it. I was exhausted too. Within minutes of lying down, I fell asleep. Something woke me up hours later. I didn't know what. There was no sound, no alarm, just a strange feeling in my chest, that heavy instinct that something isn't right. I reached across the bed toward Ryan. Cold sheets. Empty. At first, I assumed he had gone downstairs to the bar, but then I noticed something strange. His shoes were gone, his phone was gone, and the balcony door was locked from the inside, which meant there was only one way he had left the room, through the hallway. That's when I heard it. A faint sound somewhere down the corridor, a muffled laugh, then something else, a soft, breathy sound that made my stomach tighten. I slipped out of bed and walked toward the door. The hallway outside our suite was dim and quiet. Most of the guests were asleep, but one door near the end of the corridor was slightly open, light spilling into the hallway, and the sounds coming from inside that room made my heart start pounding, because I recognized one of the voices immediately. I took a step closer, then another, until I was standing just outside the door, frozen, barefoot on the cold hotel floor, listening to the unmistakable voice of the woman inside, my cousin, Vanessa. And then I heard the man whisper her name, Ryan. And in that moment, on the third night of my honeymoon, my entire world collapsed. I didn't push the door open. I couldn't. My hand was already touching the handle, but something inside me stopped me. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was instinct, because once that door opened, my life would never be the same again. So instead, I stayed there, silent, listening. Inside the room, the sounds continued. Low voices, soft laughter, the quiet rustle of sheets. Every second felt like someone was carving pieces out of my chest. Ryan said something I couldn't fully hear. Vanessa laughed again. That same laugh she used when we were teenagers, sneaking wine at family holidays. A laugh that used to mean comfort. Now it sounded like betrayal. I pressed my forehead against the cool wall beside the door, trying to breathe. My brain kept repeating the same sentence over and over. This can't be happening. But it was, because then I heard Ryan whisper something that made my stomach drop. She has no idea. Vanessa responded quietly. Of course she doesn't. Claire trusts me more than anyone. For a moment, I thought I might collapse. My legs felt like they were made of glass. Not just because they were together, but because they had clearly been together long enough to joke about it, to plan it, to hide it. And suddenly small memories started lining up in my head like puzzle pieces. The strange looks during wedding planning, Ryan texting someone late at night, Vanessa volunteering to help with every single honeymoon detail, the flight upgrades, the hotel reservation, even the room placements. She hadn't been helping. She had been controlling everything, making sure she was always close, always nearby, always available. I forced myself to step away from the door, quietly, carefully, because the last thing I wanted was for them to know I had heard. Not yet. If they thought I was still asleep, I had time. Time to think, time to understand, time to decide exactly how I wanted to destroy them. I walked back to our suite slowly, my heart beating so loudly I was afraid someone would hear it. When I entered the room again, the bed looked exactly the same. White sheets, ocean breeze through the curtains, the life I thought I had. Gone. I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at the floor. For the first time since I was a child, I didn't cry. Not a single tear. Because something colder had replaced the sadness. Clarity. Ryan returned almost 40 minutes later. I heard the key card slide through the lock. He walked inside quietly, probably assuming I was still asleep.
I kept my breathing slow and even, pretending, watching through half-closed eyes. He slipped off his shoes, checked his phone, then climbed into bed beside me like nothing had happened. The smell of Vanessa's perfume was still on him. I knew that scent. She had worn it for years. Vanilla and jasmine, my favorite scent, the one I had recommended to her. I felt something inside my chest harden, and in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream, I wasn't going to confront them, and I definitely wasn't going to beg for explanations, because people who betray you like that already know what they did. Instead, I was going to do something far worse. I was going to let them believe they were winning. The next morning, I acted completely normal. I smiled, I kissed Ryan on the cheek, I suggested breakfast by the beach. He looked relieved, almost grateful, which confirmed something important. He had expected the risk, but he hadn't expected to get caught, and now he believed he was safe. Later that afternoon, I did something very simple, something Ryan never questioned. I checked our joint financial app. Ryan and I shared most of our accounts. We had opened them after getting engaged because we were building a life together. Or at least that's what I believed. Scrolling through the transactions, one thing caught my attention immediately. A payment. 2 weeks before our wedding. $12,000 sent to an account I didn't recognize. The name attached to the transfer made my stomach twist. Vanessa Carter. Not Vanessa Morgan. Carter. Ryan's last name. My hands went cold, because that meant something very specific. Vanessa had already changed her last name in that bank account before the wedding even happened, before Ryan and I were legally married, which meant only one thing. They had been planning this far longer than I ever imagined. But that wasn't even the worst part, because when I opened the document attached to the transfer, I realized something that made me smile for the first time since the hallway. Ryan thought he was the smartest person in the room, but he had forgotten one important detail. The prenup. The agreement he signed 2 weeks before the wedding, without reading it carefully, because he trusted me. And buried inside that document was a clause that would destroy him completely. I didn't confront Ryan that day, or the next day, or even the day after that. Instead, I smiled. I laughed when he made jokes. I held his hand during dinner. I kissed him goodnight. And every single second of it felt like acting in a role I never auditioned for. But Ryan never suspected a thing. People who lie that confidently rarely expect to be outplayed. The honeymoon resort was beautiful, a luxury place on the coast, with glass balconies overlooking the ocean and soft music drifting through the halls at night. Couples everywhere, newlyweds, people celebrating the beginning of their lives together. Meanwhile, I was quietly preparing the end of mine. And Ryan's. Vanessa arrived 2 days later. Officially, she was there for a short vacation. Unofficially, she was there for Ryan. I saw the way their eyes met across the pool the first time we all had lunch together. Too quick, too careful, too practiced. If I hadn't already known the truth, I might have missed it. But once you see betrayal, you start seeing it everywhere. Every glance, every excuse, every moment they disappear at the same time. That evening, I excused myself early, told them I had a headache. Ryan barely protested, which told me everything, because the moment I closed the suite door, I didn't go to bed. I opened my laptop and started planning. The prenup Ryan had signed wasn't something I wrote alone. My father had insisted we involve his legal team. At the time, Ryan had laughed about it. He joked that my dad was too paranoid. Maybe he was. but that paranoia was about to save me millions and ruin Ryan. The document had several clauses, but one in particular stood out: the infidelity clause. If either spouse was proven to have committed adultery during the marriage, they forfeited all claims to shared assets: the house, investments, savings, everything. And because Ryan had moved most of his savings into our shared accounts before the wedding, he had unknowingly put nearly his entire financial future at risk. All I needed was proof. Real proof. Not suspicions, not guesses. Evidence. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 2 nights later, Ryan told me he wanted to go for a late walk along the beach. Romantic, except he didn't invite me. Instead, he suggested I stay in and rest because my headache still looked bad. The moment he left the room, I waited exactly 10 minutes. Then I followed him. The resort beach stretched for almost a mile, but at night it was nearly empty. Moonlight reflected on the water, soft waves breaking against the sand, and in the distance, 2 silhouettes walking very close together: Ryan and Vanessa. I stayed far enough away that they wouldn't notice me, but close enough to hear pieces of their conversation. They were laughing, comfortable, like this wasn't some secret affair, like this was their real relationship. Then Vanessa said something that made my heart freeze. "How long are you going to keep pretending with Claire?" Ryan kicked sand with his shoe before answering. "Just until the legal stuff settles." My chest tightened. Legal stuff? Vanessa sounded impatient. "You promised it wouldn't take long." Ryan sighed. "It won't. Once I get access to the investment account, we'll move the money. After that, the divorce will be simple." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. So that was the plan. The wedding, the honeymoon, the whole marriage, it had all been a setup, a financial trap for me. But what Ryan didn't realize was that he had just walked directly into my trap instead. Because while they were talking, my phone was recording everything. I didn't move until they walked back toward the hotel. Then I turned around and headed to my suite, slowly, calmly. My heart was racing, but my mind was perfectly clear, because now I had what I needed: evidence, real evidence, not just betrayal, but intention, fraud, manipulation, everything. Back in the room, I played the recording again. Every word, every laugh, every lie. Ryan thought he was playing a long game, but the truth was, he had already lost. He just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I made one phone call to the lawyer who had helped draft the prenup, and when he answered, I said something I never thought I'd say in my life. "I need to activate the infidelity clause." There was a long pause on the other end. Then he asked quietly, "Do you have proof?" I looked at the phone recording in my hand, and for the first time since my wedding night, I smiled. More than enough. Ryan had no idea what was coming. For the next 2 days, I acted exactly the same. I smiled at breakfast, I walked with him along the beach, I even let him hold my hand in front of other couples. The performance deserved an award, because inside, I was completely done. My lawyer worked fast. By the time we returned home from the honeymoon, the paperwork was already ready. All the evidence had been reviewed, the recording, the timeline, the proof of their relationship. Every piece of it fit perfectly into the infidelity clause of the prenup. Ryan had signed that document himself, and now it was about to destroy him. 3 days after we got back to Nashville, I invited him to dinner. His favorite restaurant, a quiet place downtown where we had celebrated our engagement a year earlier. Ryan looked relaxed when he arrived, like a man who believed everything was under control.
He even kissed my cheek when he sat down. "What's the occasion?" he asked. I smiled. "Closure." He laughed, thinking it was a joke. Dinner was calm, normal. We talked about work, vacation, future plans, or at least he did. I mostly listened because I already knew his future wasn't going to include me. When the check arrived, I slid an envelope across the table. Ryan frowned slightly. "What's this?" I took a sip of water before answering. "Your divorce papers." The color drained from his face. "What?" He opened the envelope quickly, scanning the documents. Confusion turned into panic, then anger. "This is insane," he said. "We've been married for a week." I nodded calmly. "Yes, and you've already broken the prenup." His eyes snapped up. "What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, I unlocked my phone and placed it on the table. Then I pressed play. The recording filled the quiet space between us. Vanessa's voice. Ryan's voice. Every word they had said on the beach. Every detail of their plan. Ryan's face disappeared completely. He looked around the restaurant quickly, lowering his voice. "Claire, listen, that's not what it sounds like." I tilted my head slightly. "It sounds exactly what it is." His hands were shaking now. "You recorded me?" I shrugged. "You cheated on me." Ryan tried to speak again, but nothing came out, because the documents in front of him made the situation very clear. The infidelity clause had been activated, which meant he lost everything connected to the marriage: the house, the joint accounts, the investment fund he had been planning to access. All of it. "What about the money I transferred into our account?" he asked quietly. I met his eyes. "Legally, it's marital property now." His chair scraped slightly as he leaned back. "You planned this?" I shook my head. "No, you did." For the first time since I met him, Ryan looked small, not confident, not charming, just scared. "You can't ruin my life over one mistake," he whispered. I leaned forward slightly. "You ruined your own life." He didn't sign the papers that night, but it didn't matter. The evidence was already submitted to the court. The prenup was airtight, and within weeks, the divorce process was finalized. Ryan tried to stay with Vanessa after everything came out, but their relationship didn't survive reality. Without the money he thought he would have, without the lifestyle he expected, things between them collapsed fast. Within 3 months, they had already separated. Apparently, betrayal isn't such a romantic story when there's nothing left to gain. As for me, I kept the house, the accounts, the investments, everything. But the truth is, the money wasn't the best part. The best part was the moment Ryan called me one last time. His voice sounded tired, defeated. "Do you ever regret leaving?" he asked. I thought about it for a moment. Then I answered honestly, "No." Because the truth is, Ryan didn't destroy my life. He revealed who he really was before I wasted years loving a lie. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply walking away with everything they tried to steal. If you loved this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real-life tales.